Hello and welcome to Reviews. Now this is going to be a 2 video upload day because today is New Comics Day and oh boy. Um, but the reason why it's a 2 upload day is because of X-Men number 11. I actually was going to upload this video yesterday, but not this particular video. See, I actually recorded several versions of the video. I did 4 times. And I use a little bit inside baseball. I use some bullet points that I take some notes and then I discuss them. I talk about them. And, sometimes I'll do an outline, but generally I don't unless... Oh, hi, Butters. Butters hasn't been in a video for a while, so... But anyway, I use... kind of like a rough guide of what I want to say, because I want to keep it conversational instead of reading just off a script. So I did 4 takes yesterday, and none of them were really up to par. I mean, even with my low quality standards. But this book is a problem, and there's a lot of problems with this issue, and I had trouble last night getting a video about it. And so sometimes you need to sleep on something, And so I did and came back to it fresh. And I found I think I found what the main problem is, the thing that bugged me with this book. Now, I stopped doing videos on the Decimation 10-issue series, the weekly series. And in case you haven't been following, spoiler for the last issue, the X-Men are all seemingly dead, and the world is rejoicing, which is very, very strange, and for a number of reasons, and they carry into this book, so I have to kind of go back a little bit. For one, the overall decimation storyline, I think I enjoyed it. It wasn't bad. It was an interesting look with what they did with Nate Gray and his whole motives and everything. And at the end of it, all the changes, all the things that Nate had done were undone, with the exception of the X-Men being killed. Now, that would have been more of a, I guess you would say, more of a gut punch, if it was not for the fact that just a few issues before, we had seen that the younger X-Men got trapped inside Nate Gray's brain, basically, via Legion, and then Legion and Nate Gray merge. So there's already a way out, which is nice that they set up the Chekhov's gunman like that. The problem is, with the weekly schedule, it had only been like about a month before. Had this been monthly or even bi-weekly, a little bit more distance, it wouldn't be so obvious. So, anyway, it kind of took away some of the pathos of the ending. Secondly, is that the world turned on the X-Men. It said in the previous issue at the end, in the newspaper article, that people were rejoicing. Now, the whole point of Decimation was to kind of bring the X-Men back to form. The whole living in a world that fears and hates them, which I kind of like. The problem with X-Men, and I would say this has been this way for at least 15 years as far as I'm concerned, is that they've gone with the celebrity status sort of thing. And this kind of started with Grant Morrison's run when he outed Xavier's school, and eventually they kind of became, more or less celebrities. People knew who they are, famous or infamous. They weren't as underground. And the problem I have with that is that the X-Men, pretty much since the inception, have always worked best as outcasts. People that you can, kind of identify with if you're an outsider. And plus the whole allegory of, say, racial tensions in the 60s, or even in more modern times with the whole allegory for homosexuality, that whole being different, which X-Men works really well on that, the whole, world trying to fit in. So when they became celebrities, it ends up taking some kind of dark turns when you had Cyclops become Ryclops. But that's just me getting off my soapbox. The point is that Decimation, as a storyline going back, I like that. It works better. Let the Avengers, let the Fantastic Four, let them be on the forefront. Let them be the celebratory ones. Everyone loves them, more or less. Let the X-Men be kind of the outlaws. That works. This issue, on the other hand, the return of Cyclops and Wolverine it's not good. For one thing, the first issue of Uncanny X-Men that came out a couple months ago was $8. The issue before this was $5. Again, bigger books, granted, but you're talking 11 issues. Within a 3-month time, we've already really dipped into people's pockets. Not just with the whole weekly storyline, but now we've had 3 of the 11 issues being overpriced for the average Marvel comic. 2 of them being $8. And that's not how you do it. That's not how you keep things around. At least with the first issue of Uncanny X-Men, there was kind of a lot going on. With the issue previous to this, it was the end to the big storyline. It was slightly bigger, so it works. $8 doesn't work for this book. It's way too expensive, especially since you're looking at a story told 3 times. 3 times. And basically, it is Cyclops and Wolverine getting back together. I'm actually not going to focus on the main part. There goes my bird. I'm not going to focus on the main part of the book, which is, Cyclops and Wolverine. Because this book, and this is the epiphany I had overnight during the day, even though this is bringing Scott and Logan back together, back into the X-Men, it's not their story. It's not. And you can even tell that when they finally run into each other and they just have, basically a 2-word greeting. No. This is Blindfold's story. And in case you don't know who Blindfold is, she is she's an X-Man that, basically she's a precog. And you know how quirky precogs can be. So what happens in this is that, we have, basically starts off with, focus. What it says is every X-Men story is the same. And it's basically several months after the X-Men were killed. And the world is talking about how the vaccine that was stolen from Beast has been turned over, and children are being vaccinated against being mutants. So basically, mutants are being decimated. Again, I know that's not what the word decimated means, but it's kind of common usage, so I'll go ahead and I'll use it that way. And yeah, it's really, I'm going to skip through a lot of this, because it's the same story told 3 different ways, from slightly different parts. But there are a few things I feel the need to point out. We have Scott trying to get information on what happened to the X-Men. We have Jamie Madrox coming in. I love Multiple Man, so I like him when he's actually not played for a complete loser. So we have this going through, and of course we have Blindfold here. This, I had trouble telling what was going on before I realized she went in the bathtub and slit her wrist. My color blindness, it's very hard for me to see this. But we have a senatorial, I just made up a word, a rally for the Senate race. The senator that was kidnapped over the previous storyline, he's turned a new leaf thanks to Kitty Pryde rescuing him. He's not so hardcore against mutants. His opponent, however, is. And so she's, in front of a crowd, humanity, yeah, she's talking about, our future belongs to humanity. A very racist, openly racist monologue. And, all the SJWs that talk about Trump and everything, I don't know. This is openly racist, against mutants. But I want to bring this up because there's a thing here that Scott says. Miss Prestel, what do you have to say to the families whose mutant children have been killed by the government? What? What do you have to say to the families whose children have been deported? Okay, I presume, oh, look at that, my skin's all dry. I presume that he's talking about American children of American parents. I don't think he's talking about refugees or illegal immigrants who happen to have mutant children. Um, they're probably trying to stretch into that. You know, it's slightly woke here. Where do you deport American citizens to? You can't deport American citizens. And the government killing children just because they're mutants, yeah, this is very, I hate using the word, but this is problematic. And by that, I mean, as far as the storyline. No, the citizens in the Marvel Universe are stupid. We've established that. I've said it many times. You know, they turn on a dime. But no one, even today, unless maybe Antifa, some of the things, I shouldn't say that. You see the whole thing going on with Vic and that whole big thing with the anime Dragon Ball Z, and there's been some horrible things said on that. But they're not rallies. It's just social media. Killing children, deporting children. Okay, we're trying to be topical, but it doesn't work. You're either trying to be topical where it does not work, or the government is so completely evil that this is out in the open. And I had to bring up this panel. So Scott's doing stupid things. He tells them in the middle of this thing that he gets the camera. Actually, maybe it's not here. Yeah, it's right here. You know, broadcast this unedited. I need the world to see this. Cap shows up, and he tells the world, this is Cyclops, leader of the X-Men. If there are any X-Men still out there, now is the time. Our people need you. I need you. In 2 nights' time, I will return to where this all began. Come find me. Okay, that is really, really stupid. Cyclops is smarter than that, because he knows that all these villains and all the enemies of the X-Men are going to come and take them out, especially with all the anti-mutant hysteria going on. And so, yeah, they do. And I'm going to skip this because Wolverine shows up and they take them all out. And it's really almost unbelievable. The Reavers took down Wolverine by themselves one time, okay? So, yeah, and then the storyline. And here's my major problem with this book. In better hands, there's 3 different storylines. We have Logan's, we have Scott's, and we have Ruth's, Blindfold. And Jamie Madrox, you know, kind of weaves in between the two as kind of like a carrier wave for the whole thing. But we're getting the same story 3 times. You know, 3 different points of view, which, if done well, works really well. But it doesn't work here. And the reason why it doesn't work is you have Scott and Logan, who are, you know, 2 X-Men. They've known each other for a long time. We don't get any type of emotional payoff when the 2 of them, who are both dead, back to life, see each other for the first time. We don't get any type of emotional, connection there. So, why? Why did we do this? Why did we do 3 different storylines? Because they don't really give too much information. You're just seeing things from another point of view. You're not getting, especially between Scott and Logan's story, you're not getting that much. A few lines of dialogue, why people went to different places. That kind of storyline works when you do parallel stories that finally connect. They work best if you have 2 characters that wouldn't be together. You know, kind of like a How We Got Here type thing. Say if it was Scott and Mr. Sinister. And, you know, you get to a point like, how is Mr. Sinister here? Why are they working together? Let's show you. And then you make a logical, explanation of how they got to that place. But with it being Logan and Scott, I mean, yeah, they've had differences in the past. But it doesn't work in this story. So, why did they do this? And as I said, it's really not Scott's story. It's not Logan's story. You know, it's basically how they meet back up. And it's really not much. It should not have been this big. But my epiphany was, this is Ruth's story. It's Blindfold's story. And it's a real shame of a story. Because she's the one that gets back in touch with everyone. She's the one that gets people together. She finds Ruth for Scott. She points Logan in the right direction, and Logan finds her. You know, that whole thing. But she's the one that keeps saying, this is forever. And, you know, she gives the typical Cassandra warnings that no one's going to heed, and that tells the truth, but people aren't interpreting, you know, correctly. You know, where she says, I need to know what's coming. You already know. Death. Well, of course, she's the only one telling Logan, she only tells Logan that it's her death coming. Now, obviously, there could be more deaths coming from, you know, other people for the X-Men, but they're already dead, supposedly. But like she says, this is forever. And that's the arc words to this. And so she becomes this Deus Ex Machina that hooks all their stories together. And it's almost meta, because once she has fulfilled her purpose, she kills herself. Because her story is over. And I'm just going to get to that. Talks about flashes to some of the tragedy she's gone through, how she got here, how she gets into, you know, certain places. And again, the parallel story doesn't really work. And, you know, in the way it's used. Because it's all people that work together. So this is Ruth's story. And it's kind of a sad one. Then we get this whole "this is forever" when she's talking to Scott. You know, how we have Scott up here, Logan up here. We're getting the conversations. Throughout the book, you're finally getting all the pieces of conversation put together. And they're trying to be tricky, trying to do, you know, I'm going to use Pulp Fiction as a reference. For interweaving storylines that are told out of sequence. And, you know, she says, you know, my gift is seeing the future. My curse is knowing I no longer have one. And, of course, on the last page, they do put a suicide prevention, you know, PSA type thing. So, my problem. This is Ruth's story. She is almost a MacGuffin to get people to where they need to be, to set things up. You know, kind of like how Destiny used to do back in the Brotherhood days. And, you know, she also foresaw her death. And it's kind of a sad, you know, statement about there being no free will. She just has to follow what she does. And other people comment about how she's kind of losing it. Because time doesn't really, she doesn't experience time as well, and things are coming together. But in a meta sense, this is her story. And her story, like the X-Men, it's over. And it's done. And it's really, when you think about that, it's almost poignant. It's almost interesting. But it's a waste of a character, and it really doesn't offer anything. And that's the problem. She doesn't really put any information that couldn't be had. For example, Scott went to the rally, made a spectacle of himself. Wolverine was watching. He happened to be there because he's tracking things. But Scott said on national TV where he would be. So he goes there, and Logan goes there and helps him. Did not really need Ruth for that. He did not need Blindfold. He could have just watched television, saw the thing, and gone there anyway. So it makes it kind of a waste. So, yeah, there goes my bird. I told you, this is why I do videos late at night. So, yeah, it's supposed to be a nice, you know, a very sad story, especially coming on the heels of the X-Men all being dead, which, why the public is so happy that they're all dead is really quick. It doesn't really make much sense. I know they blame mutants for a lot of things, but But yeah, they had to get back to the previous status quo of mutants being hated and feared. But Ruth's story, her Blindfold story, is a waste. It's supposed to be touching. It's supposed to be like, really depressing. And the worst part is depressing because it's badly written. It's yeah, she gets to a certain extent she gets people to where they need to be, but they could have gone without her. It could have still worked that way. He's shifting up his pitch to get my attention. Um, so yeah, this $8, $8 for 3 interweaving stories that aren't done well. Um, they could have easily been one storyline told in a straight narrative, ending with Blindfold's suicide. It could have been done a lot shorter. Because I'm reading this going, okay, this is not really offering much as far as, a deeper level that could not have been done in a serial fashion. Point A to point B. It could have been done that way. And this does not bode well. I was happy to see Uncanny X-Men return. I was happy to see Cyclops come back. And now, with the whole anti-mutant hysteria going on, it could justify a little bit of his Cyclops, which doesn't make sense given what has been said in the annual, and what we've been seeing with Cyclops. He's going to be a little bit more toned down. He regrets what he's done. This is his second chance, and now it's just setting it up for him to be Cyclops all over again. This is bad. It really is. $8. That's the worst part of it. $8. This is garbage. This is a money grab, and it's not even done well. Some of the art isn't bad. There's a couple cool panels, a 2-page spread in the fight sequence. That's pretty cool. But I'm gonna go 4:30, 5 o'clock, 4:30. I gotta switch hands for that to be accurate. Maybe I should do this. Left hand means worse than right hand. Maybe I should do it that way. But yeah, I'm going 4:30 on this. Only because some of the art's not that bad. And some of the parts are... Overall, the story's bad. But Ruth's story is actually sad, but it's sad on a meta level because it's a waste of a Deus Ex Machina. And she's brought in to supposedly pull these two characters together, and once her role is done, once these two are together, she has no story left. That's it. She's done. She has no future because she reached the end. It's a meta commentary, and it's not a good one. I don't like to see characters wasted like this, especially characters that are killed off for useless reasons. You could have had a more interesting thing had she decided to buck fate. What would have happened to a precog that bucks fate? She sees that she's going to die and decides, no, I'm going to keep going. What does she see after that? Is she then just completely powerless? You could have done more. It would have been more interesting, but instead we're going to waste a character. Granted, a very minor character, but still, it's not how you do it. This book is bad. I take back. I'm going to go full 5 o'clock on this. The more I think about it, and there's really not much redeeming in this, especially when you see other characters seeing Logan and Cyclops for the first time. Only Black Widow calls Logan out on it. Of course, yeah, I guess the Fantastic Four did see him already in their storyline, but very little surprise, But I guess maybe like when Cap sees Scott, good to have you back. They've all seen people come back to the dead. Maybe they're just so used to it. Anyway, this book is bad, and like I said, I needed an extra day to just really kind of collect my thoughts and find out why this bugged me so much. And yeah, it's not Cyclops' story. It's not Logan's story. Even though they're on the cover, Scott's on the cover twice. But anyway, there will be a second video coming up because we have Goddess Mode. Oh, I'm gonna have to put myself on blood pressure medicine, I think, if I keep going through things this way. So, anyway, I was trying to keep this short for such a big book. We're at 25 minutes here, so let's go ahead and wrap things up, and I will see you later. Be sure to leave a comment and keep an eye out. There will be a video in just a little bit. All right, as always, thanks for watching.